Should we get going?
I think so. I think we
All
should.
right. Okay. We're excited.
Yes.
Can you feel the energy? It is so powerful. We're excited to harness the energy of the autumn equinox by using astrology and energy healing to transform your life. And we're excited to do it together. Thank you all for taking this hour to be here. We know it will be worth it. We have people here from all over the world. So if you weren't here as people were filing in, they're literally from all over. And there's a good number of you that are here with us live. But there are a lot of you who are also watching the recording right after in the first thing in the morning your time, because you're you're in Europe or wherever else. But we do have someone from Australia here today that is live with us. So, Taryn.
Hello, everyone. It's so exciting to have you all here. We are so grateful that you're making this time for yourself to learn something new and begin to release whatever's holding you back from your most fulfilling life. And before we jump in, we wanted to just ask you to take a moment to silence your phone and stay present. Give yourself that gift. This information has the potential for creating real shifts for you.
And since we're meeting many of you for the first time, we wanted to tell you a little bit about ourselves as we get going. I'm Robyn.
I'm Karen.
And Karen and I met on a project working for Oprah. And at the time, we both were having our own, what am I doing with my life moment? And the project didn't move forward, but I had a series of spiritual synchronicities. And after Karen and I shared our biggest dreams with each other, Seeking Center was born.
That's right. And in addition to talking to and vetting literally hundreds of spiritual and wellness practitioners over these last 5 years, we've also tapped into our own intuitive and energy healing abilities ourselves. So we try our best to walk the walk, and we use all the resources available to us, and we keep learning and sharing. Our goal is to help you navigate your own seeking path, whether it's just being curious, overcoming blocks, loss or trauma, or tapping into your abilities as well. We're here to meet you where you are.
And we have two of our soul sisters who are also here to meet you where you are. Seeking Center guides, astrologer Lizzi Cutler astrologer Stevie Calista and energy healing practitioner Lizzi Cutler. We've been working with both of them for several years, and like all things in our seeking life, we all met each other at the exact right time, and each of them has been and continues to be integral in our own healing journeys, and we believe they can be part of yours as well. Before they introduce themselves and we get going, we want you to know that Karen and I are part of this workshop too, and we'll be asking questions and participating right along with you. As questions come up for you, put them in the chat and we'll get to as many of them as we can. We also have several other members of our Seeking Center team here who are looking out for the questions. So Noelle and Lisa are on. They can wave right now too. They're here and they'll be looking for questions as well. So let's meet Stevie and Lizzi and get going.
Yes.
Hello, friends. I am Lizzi Cutler, and we are going to start by just kind of going over what our goals are for this workshop and what we're stepping into, what we're kind of hoping to bring to the table for everybody today. So first and foremost, we need to understand what the equinox is. And like Robyn and Karen said, I'm also a bit of a student on the astrology side of things with you. So Stevie's going to explain to us what is the equinox, and then we're going to dive into what is a block. How do we identify blocks in our life? Most of us can feel it as like a stuckness, or I want to move past this thing and yet I can't. Feels like there's a wall up. So we're going to break down how those blocks are programmed, and then how do we move through them? What do we do for ourselves to get out of them? And then we're going to go into what's the shadow side. So we hear a lot about, I'm working on my shadow. There are books about it and journals about it. We're going to break down kind of what that means in our cultural norm. And then identifying what your shadows are. So what is it? How is it showing up? And then most importantly, the meat of all of this is how to use astrology from Stevie and energy work from me on getting this shadow stuff unstuck. And that's how we're gonna kind of move through this with you.
And Lizzi, can you just give a little more background on who you are and what you do?
Yes. That would be helpful. I'm Lizzi Cutler. Hi, it's so nice to meet you. This is a bit of a working title, but I'm a transformation energy coach, meaning I'm an intuitive and I can feel where people have stuck energy and then show you how to shift it. So for most of us, we might feel stuck. We know where our frustrations are, and we can certainly sit and tell a therapist, a best friend, or a stranger on a plane all the things that are wrong in our life. I help people figure out how to move them on an energetic level and get through them to get to sort of their next potential or what their soul is calling them to do.
And Stevie, you want to talk about yourself for 1 sec?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for joining us on the autumn equinox. My name is Stevie Calista. I live in Michigan, and I am an evolutionary astrologer, shamanistic astrologer. It's just sort of a mesh of all the things, but my passion is to really help people understand why they're here at a soul level and understand their actual soul blueprint as to what you signed up for in this lifetime and what you're here doing as far as life lessons go, and how to lean into your life purpose and your gifts and your healing in this world. So I'm really excited to have you all here, and I'm really excited to chat about the autumn equinox with Lizzie.
Yeah. Well, and I think now that, yeah, you want to go, Lizzie? Go.
I do. Okay,
Stop it.
so you are here to break through the barriers holding you back. You're here to embrace your true potential and step into the transformative energy of this incredibly powerful season.
We
Ooh.
are. Yeah.
No big deal.
Just that.
Okay, so let's just quickly talk about what the autumn equinox is. And for some, it's the spring equinox, right? Today is when the light and dark are both equal. And for the southern hemisphere, that means spring. And for the northern hemisphere, for a lot of us here, that's the autumn equinox. So this is really when the sun rises directly in the east and sets directly in the west. So like at its 0 point, right? So it means day and night for anybody on the earth, which is pretty cool that we're all experiencing this at once, is completely equal. And so this is the first day of Libra season. So the sun on every single year when we experience the equinox, the sun moves into Libra. And so this invitation is really about finding balance, that's Libra, and harmony, and not just in your relationships, but anywhere in your life really that you're kind of in these like scale tipping point where you want to pull back more into balance. So this whole season is really about this, but especially today is really special. These points where the sun hits throughout the year, we feel them in our bodies, but they're very, very sacred. In ancient times, we definitely honored them. And I'm here to bring that back. So
Stevie.
yeah, you can feel it though, right? Like you can
Yeah.
feel,
Definitely.
yeah. And I think our physical bodies too always feel these shifts. So it's transition. So the autumn equinox is really about harvesting what you've sown, especially in the spring and summer. Just like you would in a garden, you plant seeds in spring and then you like really nurture them and then you harvest them. That's really what this is about, is kind of taking stock. It also really invites us to let go. So this is an awesome time to release old habits, emotional blocks, and you always want to really focus on what nature is doing around you. So even those in the southern hemisphere, right, things are blooming, you're getting more light into the planet. So you're going to be seed planting. But for us in the northern hemisphere, the leaves are changing and they're falling, which is an invitation for us to really let go and shed. This is also because the light is getting darker. Today's the equal point, but from here on out until the winter solstice, the night gets longer, the darkness grows. So that means this is a time to really self-reflect and go inward. And it's definitely a season for transformation. This is really where we can do a lot of peeling the layers. So as we transition from the light of summer, we are invited to step into the soul's deep introspective space. Which aspects of yourself are you prepared to uncover in the shadows? Just like the leaves fall, the nature is getting ready to do this, so are we. What outdated patterns are you ready to let go of? The underworld isn't a place to fear, it's where genuine transformation starts. Embrace this descent and let the wisdom of the planets in astrology guide you, revealing hidden influences that aid in your healing and growth.
Yeah. I just want to say that what I've learned over these many years now working with Stevie is how our planets can be our guides. And the more that you can understand and embrace that, you really start to feel it inside. So I just want to say that, and what's funny to me is that I always forget on a yearly basis when something else comes around. I'm like, oh, right, it's that time.
Yeah, you actually feel it
Yeah.
intrinsically.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting if you guys, whether you write it on a notepad or throw it in the chat, of just sharing something that you're willing to let go of. Like as Stevie was saying that, I was thinking like, what am I really ready to let go of? And I'm choosing to let go of the fear, that the self-judgment that I have of being alone. Like done enough.
And Stevie, I know you're going to talk about this too in a minute, more like what we mean by shadow self, like just so that as we're thinking about that, how do you define that?
Really, the shadow self is parts of us that we've kind of tucked away into the basement, right? Because they weren't accepted. So they're real old stories, sometimes past lifetime, lots of times past lifetime stories, and this lifetime stories of places where we're not giving that part of us a seat at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's not about like letting it go and like letting it go forever, because that's not how it works. It's about giving it a seat at the table. And then so it's not driving anymore. It's not the head of the table anymore, basically.
What would be an example of a shadow?
So a shadow be like people pleasing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Like, you don't feel like you can show up authentically as yourself. You have to please somebody else in order to feel harmony in your own self.
Yeah. And seeing in the chat, like people are saying, letting go of that harsh self-critic, which I think many of us feel, letting go of, old friendships that we've outgrown. So yeah, it doesn't have to be super deep. It can be very like things that we know are there. So we don't have to deep.
The way I usually think about it and talk about it is that it's the part of ourselves that we think we need to fix instead of accepting that part of me exists. Right. So I don't need to fix the fact that I'm single or that I'm alone. I need to accept the fact that this is okay.
Yeah.
Right. So kind of the way that I usually look at it is like, if I go into therapy or I go to someone like Stevie, I'm like, can you fix this, this, and this? And actually calling that version of me back instead of judging it as it's broken and it needs to be fixed and then it'll go away. Like scooch away because I don't like you being so close to me.
Yeah. Well, and I love that people are sharing, because we all have things that we have to let go of and we'll continue to. That's what this work does, I believe. It's like once you let go of something, then you realize there's something else, but you start to feel lighter no matter what. Like, and some of these things are big. When you talk about letting go of what you're talking about, Lizzie, like once you really accept that and let go, that opens up so much possibility for you.
Right. But not even thinking I'm letting it go in order to trick the universe.
No, it's got to be.
But like genuinely owning, oh no, there is that bitchy side of me and there's the people pleaser side of me, and they both get a seat.
You're so right. Yeah.
And I'm glad I have both of them in my back pocket. But as Stevie said, I don't need them driving the car.
Yeah.
As they were.
Yeah. So
very cool.
I think that's one aspect. Do we want to start talking about the planets and how that, and because one of the things that we really talked about when we were sending out the invite for this workshop is how does astrology and energy healing work together? And that's what everyone who's on right now and who's watching the recording is going to see. So let's start.
Let's do it. Okay, so when we think of blocks and things that are making us feel restricted, we often will think of Saturn. And I want you guys to really feel into this energy. You can literally just say like, Saturn, what do you feel like? It really has helped me immensely. Just call him in. He's right there. He's you, you're him. So Saturn's energy is really heavy because he's so tied to our life lessons. So like that part of you that's always like, why am I always dealing with relationship boundaries? Or why do I always feel like work is so hard? Like it's such an uphill battle. That's Saturn. He is actually your friend, I swear. So things like lessons, structure, responsibility, like you should be doing this, but you actually should. Like it's not like a shame should, it's like, but you signed up for this thing. So you're here to do Saturn's work. And I promise you, the more you do Saturn's work, the more he rewards you, or you're just rewarding yourself, really, because you're like working on those things they're going to Earth school for. And so when you look to Saturn in your chart, you want to look to where actually you feel this weight of responsibility and what you're here to really learn. And it is an entire lifetime of work with Saturn. And when you get to age 60, you go through 2 cycles with him. So you tend to start to, he eases up a little bit if you've done the work, right? But this is really where you're going to often be provided a heavy dose of reality.
Well, and can we just for one moment, well, I've been feeling Saturn like majorly this week.
Yeah.
For those of you that know me, I'm asking lots of like, why? And what I would love to bring up is Saturn return, like what that means, because people I feel like have heard of I've heard of Saturn return. And when you're saying it happens around 60 and it also happens around 28 to 32-ish. So I feel like you now talking about what Saturn means and what it means when it returns can help.
Great question. Saturn, every 7 years, we have a Saturn cycle. That's the 7-year itch that we all talk about. And so really Saturn, when Saturn comes all the way back to himself, so he comes back to the same spot he was when you were born. So if you have Saturn in Libra, it takes 30 years. He comes back to Saturn in Libra at age 29, 30. And it's really a reckoning, not necessarily always bad, right? Like I actually got engaged during my Saturn return, but it wasn't rainbows and sunshine engaged. It was like, oh, there's like some stuff here, you know? So like when Saturn comes back to itself, really in astrology, we say like we become adults, like real adults. Like it doesn't actually start till you're, because then you're really taking responsibility. You're like, oh, okay, I have some things to do. I got things to get done. So that's what it means. And when he comes back at 60, 59, 60, it's just another round of life lessons every 7 years you're going through. And every 7 years, Saturn knocks on your door and it's a heavier year because there's stuff to be done, basically, that you signed up for, right? Like Saturn is not outside of us. He is us. So just want to remind everybody of that.
That's right.
The planets.
And Lizzie, you and I have talked a lot about 7 years, every 7 years, haven't we? Like you have those thoughts. So I think it's interesting that it really, like what Stevie just said about Saturn every 7 years.
Yeah, I think all of us on the call right now are thinking like, where was I 7 years ago and where's my Saturn and how does this impact me? Like I wrote down, why do I always feel blank? Like what's my thing? I'm taking this with you. So
Well, Lizzie, you're in a Saturn year, just so you know.
Oh, is that why? So it's been so sticky because of that. That's why so much is up.
Yep.
Got it.
Stevie, can you just say something really quick too about Saturn and Libra? Like I think about myself and the whole idea of like the scale, right? And how Saturn can be so heavy because you're trying to balance its impact on your life at this point of the year, right?
Yeah. Do you mean if you have Saturn in Libra in your birth chart?
Yes. Like,
okay.
Like if you have Libra in your birth chart, you're going to feel it even heavier because it's part of the thing that you're trying to balance out in your chart.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do people know that they have Saturn in Libra if their birthday is Libra?
No, it's not. That's not how it works.
Oh,
like that would only be the sun in Libra. If you're Libra birth baby, then the sun was in Libra basically, but not necessarily Saturn. But Saturn shows up in Libra in relationships and people pleasing and boundary issues and all kinds of things like that. And in Libra season, the equinox, like we really are, whether it's spring or fall for you, we are doing that work, like our boundaries. And we're gonna, like, the sun is like the lantern, right? So in Libra season, he's like, who are you in relationship? And who are you really? And are you balanced? Are you people pleasing? Are you over harmonizing somebody else? Like, what's going on here? So you learn a lot through the mirror of another person in this season for the next 30 days.
When Wendy just asked, how do you know if you're in a Saturn year?
It's basically 7, 14, 21. etc. But that's something you can do astrologically too, like, but it's 7 to 8, 14, 15, like it's ish.
Yeah.
If you'll know if you're feeling like you're pushing a boulder up a mountain, you can't get traction and you keep hitting roadblocks. And some people have stronger Saturns than other people, right? Like it just depends on the aspects of their soul blueprint, their birth chart, the moment they were born. So
Got it.
Okay.
All right. So we move on to the.
let's move on to Chiron. Move on to Chiron. So Chiron is actually an asteroid in between Saturn and Uranus, and he's a key, right? That's why I have this key right here that we're reaching for. He really is the wounded healer. That's what you'll hear the most when you hear about Chiron. He is the area we are deeply traumatized, where we completely abandon ourselves, or we were abandoned. We are often a victim, right? So wherever Chiron is in your chart, you're really going to look to this part of you that is very, very vulnerable and very wounded. But also, as you work with Chiron in your life and you start healing, if you so choose, you become the healer. So everyone has these wounds, but there are our greatest gifts. They are absolutely the greatest gifts because they pull people towards you so that you can help them because you healed yourself. So I find too, like in my sessions, that Chiron has so much to do with our past lifetimes. Like it's like you being killed because you were a witch, because of your magic, or you losing a child, or I mean, just deeply traumatic things. And so if there's parts of you that are really stressed, like certain people have parts of their chart where they're like, I don't know why I'm always so stressed out about this. Well, this is usually the reason, because in past lifetimes that actually happened to you. Because sometimes we can't justify what freaks us out, right? Or what scares us. We can't always tie it back to our past. So this is often this like deep part of us that really just wants to have acceptance, but we have to do the healing with Chiron. Like it's our responsibility. And the more we do, the more we realize like it's our absolute greatest gift. And it's a key for other people as well.
And would you say like this time right now where we are energetically is a good time to understand what that is in our lives in order to then heal it, which I know when we talk to Lizzi, we're going to talk about how do we heal? How do we identify some of those wounds?
Yeah, I would say that when we turn inward, when we have more dark than light, that means that we're meant to rest more and go inward and reflect more, which means usually that we're also being invited to do more healing, right? To face our stuff, face the stuff in the basement, is like as I like to call it. So yeah, absolutely. This is a great time to do that. But honestly, Chiron is one of the most important, maybe he's not always talked about, but he's been one of the most pivotal places of understanding for my own self. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so wounded here, but I actually have a gift. So like I need to bridge the two together. So very powerful.
And I would just say, I had never heard of Chiron before working with you and starting to understand astrology. I'm sure a lot of others feel that way too. So I think it's something that people will walk away with, not knowing that there was such a part of astrology, and when they hear it now and think about it more, they'll see where that is in their own lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's my fave. Well, they all are, but
and
okay.
Someone, one thing before we move on, someone asked, and I know this is something that we will talk about towards the end, but where would someone find Chiron in their birth chart? Like, how does someone look for that?
So if you go to astro.com, astro.com, and you pull up your birth information, you look for the key. He literally looks like a key. That's how you find him.
And so you look in what house Chiron is and where it is.
Yep. You'd look in the sign that he's in and the house that he's in. And unfortunately, we don't have enough time to do that today, but we have surprises for you later.
We are going to get into a lot of this though.
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah. And I think the key is like not getting overwhelmed with all the where and whys and hows, but like really thinking about, you don't even have to know that in your birth chart to really understand that this is a huge part of you, right? And like kind of getting to know the planets and how they feel. I think it's really important. So the next planet is Pluto, and he also gets a bad rap.
He
Yeah.
does.
The hooded shadow there.
Yes,
He
we
does.
love him so much. So Pluto is all about life, death, life cycles, and our shadows and transformation, but mostly power. Power is a big word with Pluto. So Pluto in your chart is going to show you where you've lost power and where you take power. So for me, as an example, in my chart, he shows up in a relationship place where I absolutely will take the power or I will lose the power. And I've had to learn how to find the balance with him. But for everybody, and he's generational too, right? Like everybody here has Pluto in 3 to 4 signs. So every 18 to 20 years, Pluto moves signs. But he in our chart has so much to do with where we're dying and being reborn from a deep soul lens. So this means like such intensity. There's such intensity with him, but also like, in my opinion, and maybe this is just me, but I love a rebirth. Like I long for this stuff, like, because then you're more an authentic version of yourself, right? And so when we talk about going into the basements of our shadows, that's Pluto. He's like, what's down there? What happened to you? Why are you traumatized there? What are you going to do about it? And it's really about diving into kind of what leads and guides us from the dark part. And it is we all have dark and light, right? And so like honoring the darkness and not bypassing it is really, really important. And that's really what Pluto teaches us.
Yeah. It also reminds me of if people have done tarot before and you get the death card. And I always, it reminds me of Pluto because at first you look at that and you get scared.
Yeah.
However, it really is now and this is because of my work with you, I think of it as a rebirth. So whatever it is, it actually ultimately is for my highest good to move forward. And so I think I love that now people can have a different outlook on what Pluto can mean in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. He's awesome. He
Last
also
but not
is tied
least.
to our intuition, by the way, guys.
Say that one more time.
He's also tied to our intuition.
Oh,
So
Okay.
okay.
were you going to say something, Lizzie?
I said last but not least because I love this part.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Then we have the South Node, and the South Node is not a planet, but it's a point. And so there's a North Node and the South Node. These points are exactly opposite each other, and they are in exact opposition signs with each other. So what the South Node actually represents is our karmic past. And so this is really a place in our lives where we've mastered this. We've mastered this energy. We've had so many past lifetimes of being in this energy that we're a total master of it. However, that means that then we get stuck there because it's our comfort zone. It's what's familiar. We have often like a lot of unconscious behaviors here in this placement. So it's twofold. Like this is the South Node, meaning it's the tail. Like we don't want to get stuck in where we're comfortable and what we've mastered, because our soul, when we stay here, doesn't feel like it's alive. Almost it feels like it's stuck. So this is a huge stuck place. You want to always honor your South Node, right? It's who you deeply are from many past lifetimes, but staying here isn't going to make you feel alive at a soul level. And so understanding your South Node is huge, because you can also really like honor your gifts here and be like, okay, I have mastered that. And you already know this. Once you start researching this, you'll realize like, oh yeah, I know that's my place. But it's really where you want to grow into the opposition point to this, which is the North Node. But understanding your South Node has everything to do with like where you came from in past lifetimes and where you hold lots of trauma and pain and gifts and everything, right? Just think about your soul's memory being tied up in this one place. Does that make sense?
It does.
It does. And man, we all have a lot going on in our South Node. That's what I'll say.
Feels chunky.
And there's some good questions which we're going to try to get to at the end. So we're going to circle back. So thank you, and keep putting them in the chat.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
Lizzie, do you want to go, or do you want to ask any questions, or you want to keep going?
Well, I think we all have a million questions. I'm going to keep going just because maybe some of these, what I'm about to say might answer some of your questions. But definitely write your questions down because we're going to save time at the end for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I want to get into like, okay, so what do I do with all of this? Like, I would say one of my, it's got to be somewhere here in my shadow is anytime someone gives me information, especially an intuitive, an astrologer and anything, I'm like, okay, that's cool. What do I do with it? And how do I fix this? And what has helped me and how I work is we have something called edits. And an edit, if you think about the idea, the concept that the universe is always saying yes, not to what you say you want. So you can have all the I am beautiful stickers around your house, but if you don't believe it, then you're not vibrating on it. And then the universe can't reflect it back. So just for the sake of the next however many minutes we have together, jump in with me and buy into the universe is always saying yes. And it's about our vibration. So what we then need to do is look at where we're pushing off these things that we don't like about ourselves and embrace them back in. And to me, part of the way that we embrace them back in is we look at what created them. And when we're little people around 4 or 5 years old, all the way up until like 9 or 10, our conscious and our subconscious brains are sort of one bubble. There's no distinction between them. So it's all just running together. We also don't have the awareness yet to discern fact from fiction. So what adults, whether it's someone on TV or a teacher or your parent or a friend's parents, things that they're saying to us get programmed in us as fact, even though now as adults looking back, we understand that that wasn't a fact. They were just having a bad day. My mom frequently used to come home from work. She worked her butt off and she would come home and say, I have to work really, really hard to make money. Do you like this life? Well, then you're going to have to work really hard to create something like this, which then programs in me either I'm going to be exhausted. And the second I get home from work, I'm going to need to hit the couch and pass out, or I'm not going to have a nice life. And now as an adult at 45 years old, looking back, I can see that that wasn't a fact. She was just tired and having a moment. So what we need to be doing is understanding where these things were coming from, because that's the cause. What happens is around 9 or 10, that veil between the conscious and subconscious gets sealed. So it's like there's a veil that gets sealed off there. And we are no longer consciously aware of what our subconscious is sending out to the universe. And that's what's setting your vibration. So you might be sending out the vibration of, I love country music, and your head is screaming, all I want to hear is 90s hip hop. And you can't figure out why you're so stuck on country music when you hate it so much. And you know the universe says yes, but you can't change the station. We change the station. The biggest issue here is that you usually hate country music and kind of love country music and are afraid to let go of country music because you're so familiar with the country music. So I'm going to give this a tangible that we can probably all feel. In the 4 planets that we just saw, there's a lot of the story around, I'm always the one who has to do this. I'm always the one who has to make it nice. I'm always the one who has to make plans. I'm always the one who has to make the money. I'm the one that has to work the hardest. I'm the one that has to say, I'm sorry. Whatever that I'm the always, that's usually our biggest double bind, where you're afraid of not doing it and you're also afraid of doing it. So, yep, thank you. So our stuckness comes, if you imagine there's like a 16-year-old version of you who's like sassy and stubborn and has all the snark. And she's shoving with all of her might on the door to the universe saying, I always have to do this and I'm so overdoing it and I just want it to be easy and I'm done having to be the one to carry all the weight, pushing with all of her might. And on the other side of it is another 16-year-old version of you pushing with equal and opposite force saying, if I let this go, I might not matter to anybody. And what if I don't matter to anybody? And I'm terrified of letting it go because what am I going to fill it up with? And maybe the devil I know is better than the devil I don't know. So I don't 100% know that I'm okay letting it go. And because you're pushing with equal and opposite force, that equals stuckness. That's why nothing moves. So that feeling of complete frustration like my skin is crawling and I am calling Stevie and Robyn and Karen crying, like what is going on? We have to get back to the root cause of when it was programmed. And for a lot of us, getting into that is really, really hard to see. Even though I know if I said to you, look, I could wave a magic wand and you're going to step into your fullest potential. Like your soul is hitting and waiting for you to step up to this pedestal. You would say like, oh my God, yes, let's go. Until you get to the root cause and change that program, your computer system still runs on like the OG iPod. And we're saying, but I have this new iPhone for you that does all this cool stuff, but you're afraid to let it go. So without clearing the double bind, where it's like, I have a fear of stepping forward and a fear of staying stuck, you can't just do one because it will be out of balance. Like those scales that we saw in the beginning, it'll be completely off tilt. Right? Did I explain that well?
Really well.
Yeah, you
Okay.
did.
Okay, great. So from there, I kind of get into the like, okay, so now what? Right? Again, back to my initial question of what do I do with this? First and foremost is noticing the trigger. And I'm going to ask you guys to chime in so I'm not the only crazy one here. How do you respond when you're triggered? To me, my skin starts crawling, my stomach bunches up, my hands start sweating, and I'm either biting my tongue, physically biting my tongue so that I don't bark, or I've already barked.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I've been triggered and I can actually summon that really quickly because this week I was triggered and it took everything to not just bark right away. So
Do you want to give like a 30-second, because your trigger was funny. It was horrible, but it was funny.
Which one? Which one? Because I've had several.
Well, I don't want to embarrass you calling this out, but your mom telling you that you had a mustache.
Oh God. Yeah, no, it does not embarrass me. I can laugh about it now. I was laughing about it then too, but I can laugh about it now. I've had a really tough week. My mom was in the hospital. She's out, which is why I can smile right now. And I did smile at the time because the absurdity of everything was so insane. And my mom was having issues. She was having some delusions, one of which I did share with several people on this Zoom. Thank you for reminding me. That was not the one I was going to say, but I love this one because as she's sitting there with the delusions, which I know isn't actually funny, but I had to find some humor in this. She looked at me and she kept saying, "You have a mustache." I don't even think Jeff, who's on here, is my husband. I don't think I've told him the story. She looked at me and she said, "You have a mustache." I said, "Where's the mustache?" And she said, "It's under your eyes." Regardless, it made me, to Lizzie's point, it triggered me, this insecurity in me of like, do I have a mustache? Like last time I looked, I didn't have a mustache. And what does it mean if I did?
Right.
But it did. It made me angry. It made me think about all the times my mom has told me I don't look right, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So Robyn just teed that up perfectly for me. We didn't even plan that. So we want to first ask, what does my body do so that we can start being aware of it when it first happens, right? Like, so when I start feeling myself biting my tongue, I'm like, all right, Cutler, chill out, take a breath. And then I'll ask in my head internally, what was I just telling myself? Because it's not the thing that they're saying. It's what you interpret them to be saying that's actually pointing you to where your work is, right? So in Robyn's example, and I had a similar thing. I walked into a room meeting a bunch of people and my mom barely said hello and was like reaching to get a fuzz off of me, which like she should do, right? Like, thank you for getting the fuzz off me. My response was like, of course. Her first interaction with me is that something's wrong because there's always something wrong with me. She never said any of that. I took it to mean that. And if I could get quiet and think, what did I just tell myself? I told myself that there's always something wrong with me. Step 3, is it a fact? Was that a fact? Is there always something wrong with me? No. Is there often? Maybe, but there's not always. So now if it's not always, I have to let it go. And I have to come back to the present moment. Like right now, what is she saying? What is actually happening in the moment? And in a perfect world, we can get ourselves all the way back to where it comes from. And it comes from like, what is that core wound? What is that core piece of you that is afraid, if I'm not good enough, then what happens? And then it's my job to hug that little 4 or 5-year-old self and say, you just had a fuzz on you. And it's okay. And it's okay that you have bad breath in the morning. And it's okay that you poop. And it's okay that you have to go pee. And it's okay that you're human. You are here to be human. It's okay. And then I can start like walking myself back to my sanity in order to move past it. Here's the piece. I have yet to really be able to do this on my own. So we're talking about like a very high level of evolution that this to me is more about, like, I can do this 3 hours after the thing happens, not usually in the moment, right? When I'm super triggered in the moment, it's probably not going to happen. But when I'm on my ride home from whatever the thing was, I will have the space to think, what was I just telling myself about that? Oh, geez, that came up again. Okay. And the piece here is that I've now recovered faster than I would have having not done that exercise. And that's my empowerment. If I can recover faster, I'll take the win. The other piece here is you've known your adult thinking life. So since like 9 years old, you've only been running on those programs. So to think that you're just going to instantly shake it off, not the most realistic. That's why we go for help, right? That's why I reach out to Stevie for astrology readings for her to say, hey, babe, you're walking into this trap. Heads up, right? So it's not about you should be able to do this on your own or that there's something off if you're not doing it on your own. It's like me telling you that you've been calling the sky blue and we've all been calling it green. Like it's nearly impossible to wrap your brain around that without someone helping with a container. Any questions on all of that?
I know there's some comments in the chat. I was just thinking to myself, like, I tend to like justify the other person is right and then deny. I kind of say, oh, it must be something in me. And does anyone else do that? Please say yes.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of my reaction to it.
Okay, Terry, those 3 steps, I ask, what was I just telling myself? And then, is it a fact? And if it's not a fact, I sort of reframe it to what is the fact? What actually is happening? What did they actually say or do? Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to just bring it back, right, to what we were, when you brought up that one trigger for me, because I've done a lot of work with Lizzi over the last several years. When my mom did that to me, I was able to recover and I was able to like somewhat laugh it off, but it still hurt. It still brought me back to those moments where I felt like I wasn't good enough. There was something wrong with me. It did do that. But again, it's being able to recover quicker.
Yeah. So if you guys could just take a moment, we just fed you a significant amount of information. So just take a breath for a second. And if you want to throw in the chat, what was your biggest aha or takeaway from what we just flung at you? My 26-year-old daughter, because she's been very critical. Yeah. Okay. So the other piece of the trigger is to forgive after you've triggered, because we're human and we trigger out of safety, right? The lion roars because she's trying to keep her cub safe. So like, it's okay that you trigger. It's about the recovery afterwards. So you're allowed to go back and say, hey, sorry, I just blew up at you.
Right. And this is like when we talk about our shadows. This
Yeah.
is like Pluto, Chiron, Saturn. This is why.
Yeah. And to kind of take a little bit of a perspective, what I've been trying to do lately is take the perspective of, oh, this experience, this like situation that I just triggered is showing me where my work is.
Well, and Beth actually just said that's what she was saying, right? Like these triggers is a warning signal. The trigger is the warning signal that there's something here. I need to dig deeper. Why is it bothering me so much? You know, there was a question earlier I did want to address, which because when Stevie talks about planets, she talks about them either in like a male or female. And I do want to just bring that up because I know it continues to come up. So will you just explain that really quick?
Yeah, I just feel masculine energy. That's all. It's not he or she. I just end up saying that because that's like Saturn to me feels more like a high school principal, which to me feels more masculine, which doesn't mean that do you know what I'm saying? It's just a feeling for me.
Yeah.
So I tend to think about planets as energies, and so I like to give them personalities and
Yeah, you do.
characteristics.
And so and I know that seeps into all of us. So I'm glad you just addressed that because people were asking.
So Stevie, can you talk a little bit too, like in the workshop or in the course that you guys are going to teach? Like, so if I come to you guys, you're going to help me identify in my chart.
Well, I don't think we've talked about that yet, Karen.
So I'm trying to like map it together so that people who are listening can see how that will act there.
Yeah. So Lizzie and I are so excited to invite you to our new course, Shadow to Light, where we are working together to heal with astrology and energy. And we've been working very hard in the background for the last few months on this. And it's really a self-led course. It's 5 modules. And this is where you can really go way deeper with this information that we're giving you. So you can go in through astrology and through energy work and not only find out what's happening in your birth chart, but also do something about it. And so we're really excited about this course. These are the few things that you're going to learn. First, you're going to learn how to read your birth chart. And not as like a master astrologer, but for it to work for you in a very practical sense. I'm going to teach you how to read your birth chart. And then we're going to, and you don't have to know anything about astrology or energy work to do this course. It's for everybody. And the other focus is healing childhood programming. So a lot of the things Lizzie was talking about, like all those triggers that come and how to work with them so that you can not let them drive the bus. And then we're going to explore Saturn, Chiron, Pluto, and the South Node. So all the things we spoke about today, but where it happens for you in your chart. So how it actually affects you personally. So where it shows up for you, what clothes are they wearing? How does it show up for you? And so this program is really, we put it together during this period of time because it's all about moving towards the darkness and moving into your shadow to really do some healing and transformation. So this is a course to help you understand what your shadows are and give you practical tools to work with them and not let them lead, basically. And also Lizzie's done some awesome meditations, and Lizzie, you want to talk about it too?
Yeah. So we really worked hard on marrying. And again, like I am not an astrologer. So Stevie was teaching me about the planets and I was matching up what the edits are and what the double binds are that we can clear. So that once you look up where each planet falls in your chart, which Stevie's going to show you exactly how to do, then you can apply it to these edits to clear that out. So it's not about you're ever done, right? Like, yes, these cycles keep coming. And I think someone asked, like, can I break the cycle? I don't know that it's necessarily about how to avoid these things from happening, but more we're giving you tools to work with it instead of being taken down by it. So how to like move through it and how to address it. So once you see where each planet falls in each house and how that impacts you, then we're going to go through the edits and the double binds on how to clear it out, which then again gives you the empowerment of it not taking you down.
And I think for me too, like the thing that's helped me so much is understanding why. But why?
Yeah.
Like, but why do I keep hitting this block? Why do I keep having this shadow? Why do I keep like getting stuck here, basically? And where in my life is that showing up so that I can have like a lantern there? Basically, when you have the knowledge, right? It like, and then Lizzie teaches you really how to work with it so that you can physically move it. Yeah, we're really excited about it.
Yeah. So it's over 5 hours of videos, and Stevie really does an incredible job on how to find all of these and how to understand it and how to really let it land in you before we clear it out. So if you're kind of listening to us talk about this and you're feeling that feeling of, I'm sick of being stuck, I don't know what I need to move forward, and I don't really know how to apply this to my current life, this is what this course was for. It was literally designed to take you through it on your own, in your own time, so that we're there supporting you. We're giving you all of our insight and info, and you're able to then weed it out and do the work on yourself. Yeah. Any questions about any of that?
Well, Tracy was asking, could there a shadow that makes her feel overeat all the time? Is that something that could be part of the shadow work?
Stevie, do you want to take this or you want me to take it?
You take it.
Okay. To me, when we're overeating, and I'm right there with you, it's a feeling of either not feeling like we're going to be satiated in the future, like not trusting that that the abundance can continue to come. So it becomes like a scarcity thing, which then under that is usually self-worth, right? Like either it's too scary to touch the feelings, and so the food is helping me not touch that because I don't know once I touch it, what's going to happen. And on the other side of that, what if there's not enough? It's like if we're making money, we either spend it right away or we hoard it because we're afraid more won't be coming in. And so that's where we move into that. And I just got a note that it's maybe not working. So I'm going to stop talking and go figure that out.
Okay. Yeah, the link that we put in the chat, that will be where you can find this course, but I know for some reason it's not showing up on the page, Lizzie.
What's not showing up on the page?
If someone wanted to purchase the
got it.
course. Yeah.
Okay, try now.
Okay.
I'm really good at energy work and not so hot at the tech stuff.
Yes, now it works.
Okay, great. Just one little button needed to be smushed.
Well, and are there any other questions, in terms of whether it was from astrology or energy editing, finding those triggers? One of the things I know I want to bring up is when we talked about the triggers and how we've overcome them. There are some of you that I feel like have been on some of our energy editing work that we've done with Lizzie before. And for those who haven't been, when we are talking about how you find that core, you'll be really surprised that once you tap into that energy of the trigger from now, how easily you can trace back where you found it. And I know that is what will be part of this course, but I want just to encourage you in the sense that you can do it, because I know Karen has had this before too. She's like, I don't have anything wrong that happened in my childhood. And we're all like, but you don't even know it might have been the slightest thing that is impacting you today. And Karen's been able to do it.
And none of this is about like, let's go back and blame my parents.
No.
This is about you chose to come here and be in a human zip-up suit in order to work through stuff. So let's work, right? Let's play. If you take it from more of the place of let this be playful and let us see kind of what we can uncover, it becomes more of a work in progress out of curiosity versus I'm broken and until I'm fixed, my life is going to suck. Are there any questions anyone has about the course itself? Because we're happy to break this down for you. And I think that if you've been learning about the planets and it kind of it's not that it went over my head, but it's a lot of information. And we go into significantly more detail. Like there are hours of information that Stevie does to break down what each planet is and where it lands. And then I'm taking a lot of time clearing out these edits with you in the course. So we did our best to give you sort of the details on how to do it, but we wanted to also create space for you to be able to access it.
And I want to say too, that understanding all of it, and what Karen and I on a weekly basis, we send out our weekly newsletter. And in this newsletter, we're always incorporating energy and astrology into the newsletter, because it really is giving you a pulse for what to expect during the week. And I think even from today, and if you decide to dive deeper into the course, it all helps you better understand how to operate on a daily and weekly basis. So I just wanted to put that out there for people. It's like once you integrate it into your life changes.
I'm just going to say too, from more of a newbie perspective in this group, these are the 4 planets that if you can learn where they are in your chart are the most aha. I think out of everything in your chart, like we all know our sun signs, we all know like our rising signs, all that's important and relevant. But if you can take a moment and dig into these 4 specifically, you are going to learn so much about yourself that I guarantee you didn't, it's in there. It's like, you know, it's there, but it's going to give you that like, oh, okay, that's why I do that.
The
So-
part that Stevie's explaining, once you can read that on your own chart, it's like it's giving you the pointer of where to look instead of waiting for shit to hit the fan and then looking at it. So you
Yeah.
can get ahead of it before you trip and fall.
I don't know who's doing that, Lizzie, but I
You
also
just got a thumbs up next to you.
the other part that Lizzie adds so much to what Robyn was saying earlier, even about me, is that there is so much that's so deep down within yourself that we just bury so deep. And it doesn't mean like you're gonna like resolve all your problems in a moment, but the moment you can recognize that they're there, and like Robyn said before, catch yourself in those trigger moments, that in itself is a huge add to your daily life. So
And understanding the energy of those planets, and when you start to read more about astrology in our world and how it's impacting different things, it's also super interesting. It's like the personal level and then the collective. It just makes life, you understand it from a different perspective, and it makes it more validating and interesting, honestly. It also gives you kind of what to anticipate and the why of certain things. And I think that is very comforting.
Yeah.
So, well, it's time.
Feather enrolled.
Yay. And if there's any other questions, put them in the chat right now. You can email us or DM us. We're all available. You can sign up for our newsletter that I was talking about at theseekingcenter.com/newsletter if you are interested in understanding some energy and astrology each week. I work with everybody here to put that together and give you a pulse for what's coming up.
For those of you hopping off, thank you for being here. We're going to
Yes.
hang out for a couple of minutes. If there are any questions, throw them in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand to unmute, we're here. We're happy to chat. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you all for being here. We're going to be sending out a link to the recording if you want to see see this again. And we'll be putting any relevant links in there as well. We're so grateful. Thank you for being and spending this time with us today.